this going. Well, welcome everybody. Give me a sound check and make sure everything's good. We made a lot of setting changes in this stream to try to get a better audio. We're running a 1 second delay now too, so it's not going to be super rapid. To make sure that we got a we can get your guys' questions answered. So there might be a little delay with it, but I'm gonna check and make sure you guys are good. Perfect. So what we're gonna do tonight, and as people come in, we'll probably have to answer a couple times, but what I want to walk people through is we have got an absolute ton of questions, really on a lot of the questions with regards to setting up rigs. Can you do different things? So what I try to do is make a kind of a montage rig here of just different settings, different configurations, a few different risers, using some of these little adapters, which you probably can't see too much right now. Just a couple different configurations to see if we can kind of mix this thing up, make it not work, and then see if we can walk through some of the issues. I'm going to try to just put up a label on the screen when we're going through something specific, and really see if I can use, or at least start, if this is a series or just a normal live stream style of answering very pointed questions that come to us. I kind of did a Pareto against all of the different questions that have been coming in, and I mean, we've probably had 200 plus emails with a lot of the same questions. When it came down to it, it was about eight to nine categorically the same question that came down, and a lot of it had to do. Let me pull up the basic punch list, and I'll end up sharing this, guys, with you too. But essentially, if you had cards installed but only a couple were showing up, you had cards that were installed but only a couple, you'd see them all in Windows, but then you'd only have a couple like hashing at like 4 mega hash. There's been some that you had 6 cards show up, all 6 were hashing, but you had some inconsistency issues, and this is prior to even modding them, right? Like, it just doesn't work. Like, it starts up, it dies, even at base setup. You have issues to where like, it works perfectly fine for 24 hours, then it stops working, and then you go to reboot it and it doesn't work, and what's up with that kind of stuff. So a lot of those kind of questions, I mean, a lot of the same repeat, and some of them are the same motherboard type, some of them are different motherboards. It seems like a lot of you guys went out and got the MSI Z170, and then some got the Z270, and really kind of let's break down some of that stuff. So that's really kind of the live stream tonight, is I'm going to try to get through some of the issues that you guys have, and that way you can use this video to come back and kind of like, what did he say, how did this work, and see if we can get some of these questions answered. So when you guys are helping me kind of moderate some of the questions that come in, at least on the comment side, you guys can point them to, like, hey, go to that video. They kind of walk that through, and then what we'll do is we'll put the timestamps in this video as I start to answer certain questions, and maybe use this as kind of the platform of kind of like a modern day help desk, a way for me to get it mass marketed out to you guys, versus just trying to respond to all these questions, right? So I'm going to kind of get into it. Hopefully you guys will like that format. It's a little different. We're not showing you guys some kind of crazy build tonight. This is going to be a troubleshooting thing, and I'll go ahead and get into that. So that first question, and I added another camera here, so what I can show you guys here is a different view. So when I'm working on something now, you guys can see me work on it. So when I start to explain stuff about risers or how we have our builds configured, I can move this camera around and give you a different view as I'm working it. So I'm going to start to try to add that, and I have another camera on the way that I'm going to have another inbound. So we'll have at least like 3 cameras working on some of our future live streams too, as I've seen some of the questions about how things are getting set up and configured, and I think that'll help bring some more clarity to some of these things. So If we look at this first question, and let me bring up an info piece on that, which is not all of my cards are showing up. So let's see if this guy here, let's reposition him here. So for the folks that are having this kind of issue, most of the time, if you're not all your cards are showing up in Windows, there's a few basic things you need to do. What I would do is, what we do right out of the gate is, if I see like 5 cards show up and I have 7 plugged in, I start the miner. This is before we mod it, before we do anything, right? You're just trying to make sure you have everything plugged in right, everything's working. You fire up, you only see 5 cards. The first thing we do is I just fire up the miner. I see and I feel which cards are running, and I can trace that down quickly to find out, okay, is the risers plugged in? Is it seated right? What's going on with it? It gives you kind of an indicator real quick of like which cards are having the problem. So that's your first step. After that, I usually power it back down, and what I'll do is I call it kind of the riser swap. We'll do one of these things to where if we had all these risers plugged in here, I literally will just re-swap the position of these risers. And just do something like this to where it's just kind of playing a little, musical chair with them. I'll reboot the rig right after that, and then see if do I see the new risers? Do I see 6 cards? If it's a 7-card rig, do I see 4 cards? Am I losing a card? And then I'll if the state changes again, I'll go ahead, even if the state doesn't change, I will rerun the miner again and see if the same cards are the ones that are still down. Because now I'm kind of doing a process of elimination that it's not necessarily a particular slot probably on the board, maybe. And this is again taking an assumption you have your BIOS set up, and we'll get into that. But I'll go through and then at that point I'll swap the risers between the cards. So then I'll do something like this. Let me bring this camera down here, and I will pull both risers and I'll swap them between cards. Just like that. Obviously I have the machine off when you do this. Don't do this when it's on. Bad things will occur, including and not limited to you probably getting electrocuted. You don't want to do that. Swap it and see if there's a change. Again, this is kind of like doing the swap down below, like we had down here. But it's allowing you to then try that swap out, right? So you've done that a few times. You swap the risers around. The big thing you're trying to see is if there was just some kind of, something wasn't seated all the way correctly, or just something weird. You will not believe how many times I've fixed things just swapping risers. And I know a few guys probably in the chat can probably say the same thing, that yeah, I've swapped risers before and it's fixed my problem. It's just weird like that. And it's another thing of like when you order risers, you order them in 6-packs if you're going to do a 6-pack rig or a 6-card rig. I've always tried to order a 6-pack before we do in a lot of big builds. I was always ordering a 6-pack and usually like a 3-pack or a 4-pack. I always want extra risers. These things are coming from China. They're coming from Shenzhen as fast as they can build them. Sometimes you have some kind of flaw with a riser and it just doesn't work. And the one thing that annoys you more than anything is if you have 5 cards on a 6-card rig and you have that last one that doesn't work and you're waiting for new risers to show up. So it is a little more on the cost, but then you have a spare riser. So I always highly recommend getting either one, order a 5-pack or 6-pack depending on how many cards you have, and then order an extra one just for that coverage to ensure that if you have a bad riser. But that's really to kind of try to answer some of the, if your cards are not showing up or you're having some kind of a riser issue. If you step back a second, back into like when you're setting up the BIOS, we did the walkthrough. I'm about to do the walkthrough on this one right here. I've actually recorded part of it for this board. I put it back together because I needed to get a raw state of it for the video, but this is the TB250. I'm doing a walkthrough like I did the Z270 board. But I want to make sure you know, you guys understand the BIOS settings on this one. I'm looking to pick up tomorrow. We're making a run out to Micro Center. I'm going to pick up some other hardware, try to build a couple rigs, but we're going to get the MSI Z170, and if I can pick up a 270, I'm going to pick up the MSI, because quite a few of you guys have had the MSI board and are asking a lot of questions with like the BIOS and the setup of it, and I want to make sure that you guys can at least have a visual representation of that. But on that board is a lot of the questions I've been getting with the cards not showing up. Like people, I mean, just countless numbers of people saying, "Hey, I got 6 cards, I'm not seeing all of them." They have that MSI board, and one of the big things you have to do with that board is you got to make sure your BIOS is all the way updated. So you got to update it. I think it's the 1.D. We can confirm that, but you got to take it to the latest BIOS on that board, and then you got to have your 4G decoding set up or encoding set up, and you got to have your settings set to Gen 2. If you do that, then that board should show all your cards. I've had a lot of people after them confirming that, saying that, hey, I'm seeing all my cards now, I'm good to go. So make sure that you do those two things. The BIOS update, so you have to go to the latest one, and you got to make sure the 4G decoding and your PCI Express, all the settings in there that have to do with PCI Express are set to 2G. So that kind of answers some of the questions with that. Don't worry, I'm going to get to some of your questions. I see chat's pretty alive right now. I will get to some of your guys' questions, but I'm going to try to get through some of these other issues. Another interesting issue I've had probably a good 8 to 10 people out of the 160 plus emails that we've received over the last couple days is a lot of people saying, hey, I got everything set up, I see all my cards, I start hashing, I got one card that's giving me like 4 mega hash. I mean, it's just like, no matter if I swap risers, whatever I do, this card just continues to have that particular issue. I tried my best to replicate that issue by like setting the PCI Express to auto, to swapping out risers I know that didn't work. I could not replicate the 4 mega hash issue in any capacity. What I would say on that particular issue, if you have some kind of degradation like that, it's more than likely the riser that you're using. That it's not seated right, or it's not getting a good connection, and it's stepping down. I would say if you have another riser, try that out, find out which card's running at 4 mega hash, and then move them around and see if you can get it to go away. Get one more riser, replace the one that's having the issue, to see if you can get rid of that 4 mega hash issue. If you have had that issue and you solved it in some way, post it in chat, and we'll make sure that we can try to replicate that kind of issue and then validate out there for the community, and then we'll give you props on saying how you resolve that issue. Let me bring up the other piece here. So other issues such as cards inconsistency. Now this is probably the number one thing out there right now, of just having inconsistent cards. And there's probably about 7 different variables that could cause your cards being inconsistent. So let's set the stage first. This is cards. Let me get rid of this little info ticker because we're not really talking about that part now. If you have inconsistency and you haven't touched the BIOS, and you haven't touched the memory speed, and you haven't touched your GPU settings, you're essentially plugged in, you see all your cards, and you're running. And mind you, most of this is in, I'm talking in Windows, but this really kind of goes into Linux too. It's really irrelevant of what OS you're talking. Rarely do any of the OSs that I've seen so far have any direct issue with any particular issue with any of the cards. I have had the same issues in Linux as I've had in Windows. It hasn't really been predicated around the operating system. Most of the time it has everything and anything to do with a few factors. One of them is, let me pull this down here so you guys can get a better look. One of the issues has to do with your SATA connections here. So this cable here that you plug your risers into I've had a few of these go out and not work right on me, and swapping this out, and you should have several that come with your power supply, and you probably are not using a few of them. If you have a consistency issue, you start knocking out variables is what it comes down to. One of the variables is this. So you got power to the riser. That's one of your variables. It could be a connection between these 2 points, right? If that's the case, you can pop your riser off, and you can pull your 4X if you have one of the 4X connections. Let me pull this guy out. And just go straight into your 4-pin Molex into this and take this out of the variable. Start reducing your variables here. So you're going to pull this out completely out of the mix and go 4 pins straight into this. If you're having inconsistencies there. That's one of them. You only want 2 of these. Even if you're using a 4-pin Molex, you only want two on the strand. We've talked that a few times now about having you know, how many cards you want to have on one of these. Don't go any more than 2 on those, just for safety reasons. There's a ton of pictures out there of what happens if you especially if you put 4 on there, where you start burning out your power supply. So that's your first one, is to make sure the riser, because you might not be, the riser might not get enough power, it might be having an issue with the power, and it's causing an inconsistency in the riser, which is actually powering it off in the middle of trying to do work. And if there's some kind of inconsistency there, the card's going to shut off. You're going to see the card will go to a stage where it says off. And usually when it goes to off like that, that means for everything I've seen, I've had a power issue if the card goes off. If you're having where it just freezes up and your mega hash drops, or it just freezes and it has to reboot the miner, you probably have some other kind of like data issue, something with the riser in general. It's got enough power, but it's just not, it's not responding, it's not a good connection with it. Again, all going back to the riser. Another thing is I've seen people say that they've had issues and they're using these kind of connectors, right? To where they're using, they didn't buy a big enough power supply, and they start doing one of these things to where you get these with these cards, and you're using like a 6-pin, and you're using Molex connections here. And I mean, I've seen these work okay. I've actually used them before, but I'm telling you, over time, or if I've had some kind of weird consistency issue, is because I was doing some stuff like this, right? Where you're taking, this is 2 6-pins into a single 8-pin, right? And it's got 4 Molexes to do that. That's a lot of power conversion going on there on one card. And that kind of stuff there is really comes down to like making sure you have enough power supply for it, right? So I went ahead and set this up for you guys could see. Now, I mean, I've also had cards work fine on this on desperate measures where I've had to use this temporarily because I was waiting for a new power supply to come in. I've had them work, you know, over a couple days, but then I just started having issues with the cards, and they stopped working, they stopped having issues. And once I replaced these with the proper power supply, I never had any issues again. So these kind of connections here sometimes can throw you off and cause an issue. Let's see what else we got here. There you go. Steven gave us a super chat and answered one of the questions, the ULPS and MIS afterburner. There you go. We'll give that a whirl, man. We'll try that out on that particular issue. And you know, so again, well, you see the common theme here on all these things. It has a lot to do with the power. It has a lot to do with the powered risers, and it, you know, it has a lot to do with making sure you have enough powered risers to cover, you know, if you need to swap out a few. So what I'm going to do here is I think I have a couple risers on this that are not, I think I have one that's kind of acting up, and I'm going to try to show and replicate an issue for we can walk you guys through fixing it. Again, this is, you know, there's no crazy awesome builds tonight on this live stream. This is more just trying to answer some troubleshooting questions. I'm going to get to a couple more, try to answer some of the ones from email from you guys. And then you guys can point people back to this if we've seen some stuff get answered. One of the other things is a lot of people keep asking, you know, how many GPUs, are the max. Right now, Windows does a max of 8. There's tons and tons of video that proves that. We've done 8. I don't know if we've done 8 in front of you guys on a live stream, but we've done. Yeah, I think we did 8 on a live stream. We have not done. Yeah, we did do 8 on a live stream for you guys. And then we did 9 on the last live stream to show you that could be done in Linux. How many GPUs can be running in Linux? That's a lot of questions that we get too. I've seen on other people doing YouTube with the expanders that you put in here where it goes the 1 to 3. I've seen 12 and I think 13 is out there on YouTube. People getting 13 off of that. Their primary issue is going to be power supply when you're talking powering the risers with the first power supply. It is not recommended to use, I'm going to tell you this from our experience, you want to use this first power supply to power all your risers. You do not want to use that second power supply to power your risers. There's things like ground loops that can happen. We've done it a couple times just to try to see if we were debunking it, debunk the issues, and I had so many different power issues and power loopback issues with that, of trying to plug in use a second power supply, even with the daisy chain turn on, like a power supply, the P2 PSU power supply device. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about with that. Add to PSU. I even tried to use the second power supply with this little device. I'm going to show you guys here. Let me bring it up here in the stream. Add the source. URL, here we go. So we've used this device here to kind of daisy chain 2 power supplies. So when you turn on the first one, the second one's lit right away. If the first one goes down, the second one goes down with it. Keeps it safe. But trying to use the piece, the extra SATA connection, SATA power with that second power supply, we've just created some kind of ground loop issues. So it's still predicated on doing all your powered risers on that first power supply. So you're physically, when we're doing 2 at a time in these, if you're doing the Molex or if you're doing the standard SATA connection, which pull the SATA over here. If you're using a standard SATA connection, connector, or the Molex, if you do 2 per strand on like a 1600 watt power supply, it's going to give you enough to power about 9 to, or it's going to give you enough to power actually 10 cards in total on like a 1600 watt power supply, if you're going to do 2 per. So anything over that, you're going to start having to go 3 per, and you got to really look at it. The only one that I would use 3 per, which I've done successfully without really overheating the power supply, is the EVGA Supernova T2 1600. That's the only one that I've done where I've been able to. It has a high enough gauge cable. It's just more beefier, and handles it, which is Supernova 1600 P2 or T2, not P2, not to be confused. Which is this guy. Let me show you here. I'm going to add another source. I need a quick button for this. So this guy, which is super, it's not cheap, but has more than enough connectors as you can see. These are all the VGA, and you get the first 2 are singles, and then the rest of these are doubles. So you got more than enough, and if you have a couple Supernovas, you could actually put the doubles on these here. So that gives you essentially a 12 card rig on a single or at least a 9 card rig on if you're using doubles, right? Or if you're using singles, you're talking what? Is that 18? Really? I wouldn't put 18. You won't be able to get enough power here. So you got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 per 2. That's 10 cards. Again, that's 10 cards. So you could go technically 3 per, and now you can get up to 15 if you put 3 cards per one of these. I don't know if you guys can see when I'm using the mouse here. Probably not. Let's see if there's a tool that I can use here, but I'm looking at the PATA and the SATA connectors on the back of this. Each of these SATA connectors, you can, on the left hand side of this power supply, it's 2 per that you could put on there, and then the PATA, SATA you could put there. So that's 10 cards you could technically run on the back of this power supply on the powered risers, and then you can get the 10 on all the VGAs that you have in here in the connector. So that's a great power supply. The P2, I believe, is the same, is pretty close to the same output on the back. It's just not like this one will overboost to like almost 2,000 watts, which is really maxing out your 20 amp connection. But that's where I'm kind of showing, like, when you're seeing if you're trying to do a crazy build and you found 10 to 12 cards, you're trying to get them all done, your problem is going to be, it's not powering the actual tops of the cards, with adding a second PSU. That's easy. It's a matter of powering all the powered risers off the first PSU. So that's another point that I want to make, because there were some people that were trying to build some of the 8 card rigs, and they were trying to buy 2 750s, figuring that 1500 watts would cover it, and technically from a top power it will, but now they're having issues with consistency because they're plugging in their SATA connections on that second PSU, and they're getting some ground looping issues. So it makes it a rig unstable, and if you're running it off that second PSU. From our experience, I mean, some people may be running it right, and you might see some comments. I haven't looked at the comments, but people are saying, "Oh, I run my other SATA connectors fine." I just, from our experience of building hundreds of rigs, we've just had some issues with that, with the ones that we split those two. So I'm trying to give you guys just what works for us, why our rigs are solid and stable and are been consistent, and that's kind of the secret sauce to that formula, is single PSU running everything, and then your ancillary support from your secondary PCU on the tops of the cards. So that's another kind of consistency issue. If you have a 6 card or 7 card rigs that's unstable when you got power going on, maybe make sure you have enough power. Pick up one of these. If you're building more than one rig, get yourself a Killowatt. We put that in most of our descriptions. You can hit the Amazon link. They're like $14. Get one. It's worth it. And make sure you're not overtaxing the PSU too, because if you do, I mean, I've seen some builds that people are putting like 860 AX 860s, 850 P2 EVGAs, because they can see that after their BIOS mod that they're only running 800 watts. Not good. Run 1,000 watts with that. You don't want to run that bouncing off the top. So, make sure you have enough power, because that's another consistency issue. If we start getting into the mix of BIOSes, and we start talking BIOS mods and stuff, by nature, if you're modding the card, it's going to be a lot of trial and error to see if that BIOS works with your card, and it's just really, you're looking at a few day event, no matter what. I'm just trying to set your expectations. It's the way it is. You may be able to get lucky. One of the BIOSes we post up, you pull it down, it works perfect on your card. I know it's worked for some of you guys out there with some of the BIOSes that we've been posting. Again, so most of that stuff's through our testing, but a lot of it, it's a community thing. We'll go out, we'll search the forums, we'll see other BIOSes that people have, we'll look at them, we may mod them, we may make changes to them, but You know, it's just a collaborative thing, and if we find one that works solid with our cards, we post it out to you guys. But, you know, that consistency thing is a lot of testing. It's a lot of trial and error testing and make sure. But what I always ask people to do is try to make sure, before you BIOS mod them and stuff, make sure your rig's stable. Run it for, you know, a couple hours at least to make sure that it's just solid running its base. That way you know you're not dealing with any kind of variables that we were just talking with the powered risers, with your power, with your Molex and your SATA connections. All that stuff's cheddar. It's good, it's working, you're good to go. Then go ahead and take the plunge on making the BIOS change. It's just going to save you a lot of headache of trying to figure out where your problem is. A lot of those type of emails that we've been going through, one of the first questions I've been asking folks going back to them is saying, did you mod your BIOS very first? And is that really your issue? Because it might not be. Go back to stock, test it, make sure your rig's stable, then stair-step it up. Let me see, we got some other, oh, we got a 15, what is that? That's, we got a super chat. I have a problem with one of the cards in Simple Mining posting 20-second video full screen. The problem would be great to see if you can check the video. Yeah, if you guys, that's another way. Thanks for the super chat, man. That's solid. If you guys have issues, you do nothing but help us than writing up your response, especially if you're watching this in a different language and your English is not your first native language. You know, the video speaks 1,000 words, right? So take a video, point to it, you know, even if you don't know English. There's several people that we know around that I could probably get it translated anyways if you send me it in a different language. But, you know, take a video of what your problem is and kind of point to it. You know, I know we're kind of serving right now as like the world help desk on this, but, you know, the more you guys understand on how to do this, the more we help as a community. So we're trying to do our service to get a lot of you guys kind of educated on it with your own rigs, and then you just, in passing when you're talking to somebody, or if they're into a rig and stuff, you guys are paying it forward. You know, that's why we're trying to keep all this on YouTube and not, you know, we're not doing this as like you know, a paywall service or anything like that. I'm trying to bring it to you guys. You guys are awesome for giving donations. That's sweet. You know, we're going to take that to make better content for you, but I'm trying to keep it, you know, free and information going. And if we've done a solid for you guys, especially you guys that have like 800 friggin' rigs, I know some of you guys are out there, you know, sending me pictures and stuff of like your 500 cards that you're trying to, I don't know how you got them. God love you for figuring out how to get that many cards, but you know, if you're trying to get those loaded on there, you know, if any of the stuff that we've done and helped with, or anybody else for that matter, you know, drop them some love out there, especially if you're bringing in a lot of Skrilla. You know, it's kind of like tipping the dealer, right, if you hit it big. But, you know, get it out there, keep the questions coming, and make sure if you guys are showing, you know, you're asking questions, take a quick video. You can use your smartphone. If you're trying like, I don't have a camera. Yeah, you do. You probably have a smartphone. Take that phone image, send an email to yourself with that, and then just those little 20-30 second clips go a long way with trying to, because there might be things that we don't see, and I'm going to tell you that looking at a couple of the videos that I've seen that people have sent us, is when they're kind of panning over, I've seen things and I'm like, there's your problem. It has nothing to do with what you think your primary problem is. I see something on the board not plugged in right. You know, one of the guys that sent us a video his riser wasn't plugged all the way in. The card just kept dying on him. He says, I don't know what's going on. And literally, the video I saw was like this. Like he was kind of coming over with the video like this and, you know, trying to show, and I literally saw it like that. And I'm like, dude, you got to plug your riser all the way in. Just like that. Make sure it's all the way in. Kind of hit this little guy back here. Make sure it's locked in. That's one of the critical things. You know, take a little scan across all, like this one right here. You see this? It's not all the way in there. You know, that needs to go all the way up. You know, in some of these risers, like I try to put a mix match of risers here for this kind of video. You know, this one has ones that have like a clip that kind of go up like this, so you got to push down on it. That's a little different one. This one has a slider clip, you know, to where it's back here, you know. This one's another, you know, black PCB. It's a newer one, or this is this is a version 6, little different one, same kind of slider back here. And this was another different one that we got from somebody else. This didn't even come with the little bottom pad. You know, they didn't even do the courtesy, you know, not fry your hand type of thing on this one. And this has a totally different slider again, you know, and, you know, it has a few more capacitors than other ones. But each of these are kind of different. But, you know, the big thing is make sure they're all the way in there secure. So, let me see if I can get rid of that part here. Yeah, and then, you know, make sure if you're sending us the questions, you know, try to be as thorough as possible of what you've done and what you haven't done. I don't want to tell you something that you already done. That's doing nobody a favor. It's definitely not doing you a favor. And just say, hey, here's the steps that I've done. Here's what hasn't worked. Here's the BIOS version I have. That kind of stuff. We can see if we can get you guys some support on that and help you. All right, let's see. I've been going for about 35 minutes. I wanted to make this just a quick 1 hour live stream. We have a couple big builds coming up here. I'm going to be doing the 1060 build, the 1050 Ti, and the 1080 Ti. That may come as early as tomorrow. We're going to see. I'm going to try to do another live stream. It might be a little late tomorrow, but I should have all those in hand. And we'll at least do the kind of review of those, of what those are, to give you some options out there. And then I believe we have the 570 Armor, the MSI Armors. We've had those running for about a week now. I want to do catch you guys up with those. We got a BIOS for those, for the folks that have the MSI Armors. I'm trying to think if there's any other kind of builds that we got going on that we're going to show for you, but we'll probably have that live stream tomorrow, kind of show you that build with the. I want to show you the 1050 Ti's, the 1080 Ti. There's quite a few people that put some videos out with the 1080 Ti, but give you a more elaborate shot of that, and then either a 1060 or 1070 full build, 8 card build. We got both, so I want to make sure we can cover both. It's just which one we hit tomorrow on it, which is more relevant. Maybe what we'll do on BSBTripping.com after this, I'll put a poll out there, and you guys can see which one you want to see first, and we'll cover it. Just hit that poll. I mean, you don't have to. The site's still kind of coming up, but just go out there, hit that, see which ones you guys want to see first, and then we'll get that produced. Let me take a look at the. You know, we got about 20 more minutes. I'm going to answer some questions. Let's see if I had any more on that. My little chart thing that I was capturing. No, that was most of it, man. Most of it's all the cards showing up, the cards not hashing all the way, the cards being inconsistent, or the cards that do show up are showing all their hash rate. I mean, that is almost like on 180 emails. That's literally like the 90th percentile of every question that we've received. So, hopefully you guys can go back, rewatch some of this if you're having some issues, and see if any of those things fix your stuff. Nice. Thanks, Derek. Yeah, ZEC's doing well right now. All right, let's start taking some questions here. Is it worth mining RX 480 out of my gaming PC, mining overnight? Absolutely. Did Cash do a super chat? Yeah, I'll get to his super chat. If you have a card right now, it's absolutely, one card right now is worth it. I mean, it's ridiculous right now. The pricing is crazy. You know, hedge at night, start the miner. Let's get. Let's see here. What was the super chat? Let me go back up. Cash money. All right. So the cash money, I got your super chat question, buddy. So your 1070 only mines 2.5 with Claymore. I put it in Gen 2 enable front setting. The BIOS and Windows fully updated. So have you check and see if you've overclocked it, and then the other person that had said that they had an issue with the 2.5 is an afterburner. Make sure that box is checked or unchecked with the. Let's scroll up. We had it as a super chat. I believe here, I'm going to repaste it in here what the other user said. We'll try to confirm this, and then we'll send it back to you, Cash Money. I just reposted it. That's what they said. If you're using Afterburner, let me know if you're using Afterburner. me go back and make sure I didn't miss any other super chats. Hit those first. And check your riser too. Check your riser and your swap your risers around and make sure that you're in the right spot. You know, or move them around like that. Kind of do the little swap-a-roo and make sure if it doesn't fix your issue or not. What else do we got here? Which surge protector do you recommend for the T2 1600? We were using an APC. Where's that guy at? Here, I tell you what. I'll link you the APC that we're using for that. For that T200. This is the one that we were using for it. On that super chat, let me link that real quick for you. And we'll have this on the, we'll put this in our affiliate link right after the video, because I think Amazon actually has this a little cheaper than Newegg, but I just went to the Newegg because that was the quickest piece brought up. Just, I kind of use it because of it has the extra chargers for the USBs, but this one has more than enough amp to handle that 1600, but it's the only thing that's plugged into it. So I mean, don't be confused with the fact that there's like 11 outlets on there. You're using just one of them on there, but it has enough amps to handle it. What else do we got here? Where can I buy the quality PCU cables that come with the T2 1600? EVGS is pack for 89. Yeah, that 89 one's crazy. Said no overclock. Cash Money said no overclock. Okay. The Cash Money, what I'm going to do is I'll check my 1070 and see if we can replicate the issue. Send me your details in an email, which 1070 you're using and the motherboard combo, and I'll see if I can replicate it for you. Yes, there is a pack. Oh, where'd that card go? I was looking at that last night, actually. So you can buy some extra threaded cables. It comes in the thermal take boxes, but you can buy them for everybody. Let's see if I can find it in here. So there is a company out there that creates threaded cables. That way you can get like extended ones. Is it in here? No. It's a little kind of tag or banner. You see, people looking around for it right now. It's worth it. But it is good. It's a good question because I must have dumped all the trash out. I will put it in the link. We'll write it down as a thing to add to the link. But it's the threaded cables. So what the question was is where can they get like extensions or higher grade connectors to plug into your power supplies? Because these modular connectors, which kind of cool, is like if you ever lose one, you can replace these. And there's third-party companies that make them for the different power supply companies, and they have higher grade bradings and better connectors, and they line up. I'll shoot you the link on we got it written down, so we'll add it to our thing. But there is a company out there that makes them for all the different power supply companies. Let's see here. Do I miss any other super chats? That was from Nathaniel. Let's scroll back up here. The issues with both his Asus Gigabytes 1070 cards, onboard PSIs, not the risers, So you're plugged directly in to the motherboard and you're only getting a limited mega hash, right? That's the problem. Asus Maximus board. I might actually have one of those. Thinking about it, we may actually have that board. A Maximus formula. Send me the exact details. I think I have a box here with that same board, and I'll pull a 1070 and see if I can replicate it for you. Any idea of getting the open claymores with EthOS? Can't figure out how to do intensity. The DCR mining intensity and claymore dual mining. So I think in there you hit a minus, or yeah, I think it's a minus or and a plus if you want to go up in intensity. Somebody can confirm that for me. But if you're in the, if you do a show space miner and you're using Claymore's miner, I think if you hit minus, it changes the intensity and goes down. Somebody can confirm that for me, but I think that's what it is. Ron Lee, yes, the Gigabyte RX 570 is perfectly fine for mining. If you can find them, get it.
Is that the Zcash miner? The Claymore Zcash miner?
The Claymore dual mining for DCR is the question. But I think in there you hit minus. Like when you're looking at show miner and it's running through its stuff, you hit the minus key or you hit the plus key to increase. The RX 560. I haven't tried a 560. All we had is 460s. Let's get on the board about picking up a 560. If we're out there tomorrow and there's any available, I'll pick up one. We'll pick up a 560, guys, and we'll do a proper review on it if they're in there. Because I still have some of the 460s. I haven't. I'm gonna build like a little 460 rig, or just maybe we'll put the 560 in there. But it's kind of just a mix match. One of the episodes we want to do is show that you can use all kinds of different cards in the same rig. So these are the 460s that we were trying the other day. Switch PCI rounds, there's still the same issues. I didn't see what I'm looking at John's original question. Hey John, repeat your question. I don't know what your original question was. Thoughts on the basic attention coin? I don't know what that is. Basic attention coin. If it's a new coin, is that a new ICO? I haven't seen. I saw Yobit drop something saying there was an ICO coming out. I didn't look and see what coin it was. Some problem with RX 570s and the miner. GPU and. Okay, John did repeat his question. Problem in my videos, on my video, in my video is simple mining. Oh, GPU clock source TCA unstable because the skew is too large. I think I've only got that, John, when I was trying to push the wrong GPU settings or the wrong power stage, or too low of a power stage to my card. Are you running a modified BIOS? Yeah, I would try to step it down. Leave the stock BIOS on there, and try to step the GPU down a hair and see if that fixes your issue. Sebastian, what we've yes, there's been several people using the Z270 Gaming 5 motherboard. Make sure you're using the latest BIOS on that card or on that motherboard. Go out there and update the BIOS to the latest one. I think on the MSI Z270 it's 1D. I think is the latest one. You have to look and see, but make sure it's at the latest and make sure you're in Gen 2 and 4G decoding, and you should open up all your stuff. Shamrock, 1080 Ti tomorrow. The 1080 Ti and the 1050 Ti tomorrow night. This is just answering a lot of the questions. You guys got to understand that we've gotten so many questions from you guys to this video, and you guys will be able to go back and look at it. I try to answer a lot of the different questions on that we've been getting for you. I can just start referring you guys back to this video to answer some of the questions. Nick, where can you find a BIOS for the 1070 GTX? You don't upgrade the BIOS on those. Did you try to do something with the BIOS and it broke? Is 3K enough to build a rig? If you can find cards, zero to cash, yes, absolutely more than enough. A rig will cost you, if you can find cards at decent prices, you can spend anywhere from $2,100 to $2,400 on a full 6 or 7 card rig. If you can find cards for a decent price. Otherwise, you're over $3,000. What I would say right now is the 1060 GTXs. Watch a couple of live stream videos before. If you can find them out there, they should be a little more easier to find than some of the RX 580s and 570s. And you can put together a pretty decent rig for that, and it'd be under your $3,000. GTX 1050s, I'd hold off until we do that review tomorrow. I don't know if that's a good thing. The 1060s have been proven to be decent. 24 mega hash on ETH and about 270 souls on those if you just use the afterburner on them. Roberto, yes, I know the H81 Pro BTC 2.0 pretty well. Nissan Nick, your 1070 should get about 25 mega hash. You need to download EVGA Precision XOC. You'll have to make just a normal account from there, log in, and then once that's downloaded, set your power tune to 60%, or your power draw to 60%, and then set your GPU clock to about 125 and your memory to about 850 plus. If it holds that, let it run for a little bit, and then you can step it up a little more. Don't go any higher than 10 or 150 megahertz on the GPU, and don't go any higher than pretty much the whole slider bar, which is 1,000 megahertz, if it can handle it. I'd keep it around 850 and probably 135, 125 GPU, and then at 60 the power, and you should get close to what everybody else is on the 1060 or 1070s. What else we got? We got about 7 more minutes, guys, and I'm going to cut this stream for tonight, and then we'll be bringing probably a longer stream tomorrow, because we'll have reviews of different cards, the 1050 Ti, the 1080 Ti, and then maybe if we can build it in enough time, like an 8-card, like 1070 build. But at least the 1050 and the 1080 Ti I want to do tomorrow for you guys. Cole's asking if is AMD going to be making pure mining cards. Well, so the word on the street is that NVIDIA was trying to do that. I think CryptoMine tried to drop that news on a couple forums. Supposedly knew somebody. I have not confirmed that NVIDIA was actually doing that. I haven't heard any other news on that. It makes absolute sense if AMD and NVIDIA make mining cards. I mean, the industry's out there and all the cards are showing up. If the price goes up another couple $100, every card in the industry is going to be out of stock. So I can see them probably with great due diligence right now trying to figure out the answer to this crypto mining thing. Did I sell mining rigs? Yeah, I've sold mining rigs for years. We don't have any right now for sale. I mean, literally right now, we can't replace what we have just because there's no supply at all. So right now, we're not really moving any rigs. Most of you have probably seen our stuff on eBay before, or you see me post on Twitter if we are moving rigs. We'll make sure that if we're moving any rigs, we'll post it on Twitter and you guys won't miss it. Yes, we are making the GPU Shack APC power rack. It's still sitting over there right now. I had to pick up a couple items for it. That's going to go in. That's going to be a proper video. It's not going to be kind of a live stream. Once that gets installed, then that video will go up. It may go up as early as this weekend. It may be into next week. It just depends when I can get an electrician out here to do it and get it all done. I don't personally. I'll mess with the power here. I'm not messing with the power in that big box. Where can you get the purple rig? Yeah, so this is one of our normal custom mining rigs. This one was actually expanded to have kind of the, I don't know if we can kind of zoom out and then look down here on this rig. So this was a little bigger design, and this was made actually for a kind of a purple. It's kind of got the Ethereum colors in it, is what I was shooting for in this. But this is that kind of staggered look. This is eventually, if I can get enough 1080 Ti's, this might show into I wanted the space and the size to be able to stagger them. I still need to put the other wood piece here like this here on this one, but this will probably end up being a dual power supply, kind of bigger setup. But we make these. Yeah, the purple's reflecting from my shirt. I hear you. Sebastian, yeah, I've had some people send us notes about trying to get some kind of direct consulting with it, and just drop us a note. It just depends what it is. I mean, and if it fits in the schedules and times and where you're at and stuff. Especially, we've done a lot of stuff locally, just because it's easy and it's convenient, and I can get over there and help somebody out, and we can work something out. But it's there is options on that, so just drop us a line on bitsbetrippin@gmail.com. Maybe in the future here, we've been looking and toying around the idea, because BBT has quite a few of us that are involved in it, of maybe adding that as maybe a service on the website to where we can like set up consultations and work with other folks and stuff. But again, I'm trying not to make that change any of the stuff that I do on YouTube, and make sure that I get this information out to you guys. I'm trying not to make a paywall there. You guys offering contributions to Super Chat and stuff like that keeps that kind of in motion and stuff for us, so we value that. So we'll still keep bringing you guys good content irregardless of that. GTX 1080 Ti's, of what I've seen so far, is about 750 sols. It looks like what they can do, and about 34 to 37 mega hash on Ethereum. We're going to confirm that tomorrow when we pick up one. We're going to got about 2 more minutes, guys. Help me get your Sapphire Pulse 580. So there should be a BIOS. I don't know if CryptoMine did that 580 RX Sapphire. Look on his video and see if he posted the BIOS with that or not. I don't know if he got. I think he got over 30 with that too. Yeah. How'd you fix it, John? Share the world. The 1080 Ti goes over 30 mega hash. If you overclock it, it'll do like 37 mega hash from what I've seen. Thanks, Cole. We value that, buddy. NVIDIA cards don't really get the bump from BIOS updates. They're a pretty good check. They give a lot of open freedom on their soft modding, so where you can change the GPU and clocks and everything's good. Their memory timing work out a little differently. The architecture is different than in AMD. It has everything to do with the way the clock cycles work with AMD cards versus NVIDIA. So the CUDA cores with just GPU and memory updates give pretty good results. On the mining rigs things, let me grab one thing for you guys and see if you guys are interested in this. This is another thing we've been toying around with. Let me pull this over. Where is that little box? That's embarrassing. I can't find it. Maybe I don't have it. I'll have to bring it back with all the little examples. I don't know where I put it, guys. Never mind. So bottom line, we have about 50 colors that we get these we paint these cases in, and what we're thinking about doing is putting that color scheme out on the site. And if you guys were interested in picking up these, maybe we'll start just having a whole bunch of these pre-built with different colors and keeping them priced decent, not nothing crazy, not several $100s or anything like that. Trying to keep them as close to that $100 price point. Because we look at, you got about $30, $40 of material. I'm straight with you guys on all this stuff. So you got about $30 of material here, $35 material, probably $7, $8 in paint, and then you got time, right? Somebody's time putting it together, making sure fast it's right, and all that kind of stuff. So there's a couple different models. If we put together these rigs for you guys and give you guys an option to buy them. Maybe we'll do that on the site. They could come assembled and not assembled. It's a lot cheaper on the shipping if they're unassembled and you put them together. But maybe if you guys are interested in that, we'll toy out the idea out there for, from the open air rigs to have something that you guys can get and different color schemes you can choose from. So if I find that, we'll post that in tomorrow's video. We did a whole big paint scheme with all of them. Yeah, it'd be shipping included in that. As long as you're in this lower 48, depending where you're at. I mean, I've shipped them worldwide before, but the shipping we had to just make sure. What I would do is usually on the worldwide shipping is I'll collapse them and then you slim map, connect them together, and we'll give you kind of a video guide of how to do that. But if that makes sense, we'll put some together for you guys. Blueberry 1050 Ti tomorrow. Promise. All right, guys. I'm going to stay in the chat for a little longer. We're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. If you have any questions, again, send me them. If you're going to ask questions you're having issues with your mining rig, be sure to do video. Do a quick little cell phone video, include it with it. That helps us, helps with your problem. And stay tuned. We'll be back tomorrow with a live stream of the 1050 Ti and the 1080 Ti. We'll kind of do a deep dive of those in front of you guys and some settings and give you kind of a gauge of what to look for on that. And there'll be more this week too with other card setups and a couple other bigger rig builds. But stay in there for tomorrow. We'll stay in the chat and answer some questions. And like, subscribe, share. If this helped you, or if it does help you, share this with folks. And that way, it's an easier way than you trying to explain something to somebody. Just say, hey, go to minute 4 in BBT's video, and maybe that solves your problem. All right, guys.